Hello, breakfast whiskey. So this is gonna be a hell of a fun video. Piers Morgan interviewing Nick Fuentes. Video has amassed almost 4 million views in 2 days. Well done to Nick. So with that being said, let me say my opinion on Fuentes here. Just because I happen to agree with most of what he says on that interview, that doesn't mean I like him. It doesn't mean I'm a fan. It just means what he says is true. As simple as. Oh, and also, I can take tremendous joy in watching Piers getting his boomer-coded liberal ass handed to him. Far as Piers Morgan is concerned...
To what?
Yeah, basically that. Let's just say there's a reason Jeremy Clarkson is my favorite Englishman. Now, I'm going to try and play as few clips as possible here, mainly because Piers Morgan is an insufferably irritating prick. Everyone who knows Piers Morgan knows the man has a reputation. Despite his posh git accent, he's nothing more than a basic bitch tabloid-level smear merchant, an outdated boomer desperately trying to maintain some sense of relevancy by doing nothing more than antagonize through disingenuousness. That's it, that's all he has, he's a pathetic one-trick pony. And as such, before the interview even took place, pretty much everyone warned Nick, be prepared because he's going to be dirty and underhanded, because it's fucking Piers Morgan. In fact, here he is about 21 minutes in, outright saying it.
The beauty of what I'm going to talk to you about in this interview is that almost all of it is just going to be reminding you what you have said and asking you what you meant.
AKA, I'm going to pick out your most incendiary taboo positions, as judged by today's pathetically blind to the utter dysfunction of modern-day liberal priors, and try and berate you for noticing reality. In fact, if you watch Ben Shapiro's video a couple of weeks back, where he just plays clips of Fuentes and bugger all else, it was basically a watered-down version of that, except played in Nick's face. Let's watch the rest of the clip.
They're always coming up with, no, it's not the Jews, no, it's not women, no, it's not blacks. It's actually really complicated. No, it fucking isn't at all. Jews are running society, women need to shut the fuck up, blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part, and we would live in paradise. It's that simple.
Okay. Would you like to clarify what you meant there?
What's to clarify there, you dippy sandwich? That was pretty self-explanatory. Or is a nuance beyond your comprehension?
That's all true. That's 100% true. Everything I said in that clip is true.
No lies detected. Fair play to Nick. But yeah, there you can see Piers' nakedly obvious MO. Nick is a racist, sexist, anti-Semite, blah, blah, blah. Pfft, no one cares, boomer.
Got on board.
Precisely. Blacks, Jews, and women. I think gays were probably going to be thrown in there as well, but Tucker basically shredded Piers on that topic on their sit-down a while ago, so I'm guessing that's why that topic wasn't there. But all Piers did for every single topic, because he's the most feminine man on the internet, is go, Nick is an insert alienating label, and here's an example. Come to think of it, at no point does Piers ever engage with how Nick arrives at the conclusions he does. It's just a series of accusations and attempts at morally castigating him for reaching those conclusions, and that's it. Well, maybe once with the crime stats, but showing you don't understand what per capita means, not exactly a great look. Can hardly qualify as an interview, it was just Piers signaling to his metropolitan butt buddies and asking for head pats. And when he didn't get the reaction he was so thirsty for, because Nick doesn't care, Piers would just double down. It was nothing more than 2 hours of Piers desperately looking for some kind of gotcha in viral clips. His repeated failure at this endeavor did result in plenty of viral clips, just at his expense. It turns out the guy who spent years in the internet wilderness building an audience on acknowledging reality is actually pretty quick-witted at explaining why he holds the positions he does. Because reality tends to resonate with people who look at the world through their own eyes and not their asshole. Piers, because he resides up his own ass, doesn't seem to understand how or why Fuentes has managed to build an audience, being a stuck-up gimp who doesn't live in the real world and can only get eyeballs through sensationalist bullshittery because he's a talentless wanker. He's a Jerry Springer of the internet, and he showed just how despicably low he'll go, bringing up an anecdote Nick told about his father not wanting to eat at certain places due to the demographic association, insinuating Nick is the apple that fell from the racist tree, repeatedly invoking judging by their skin color. Never mind the fact that that's extremely classless and low, again, Clarkson was right, but it also shows just how disconnected Piers is from the vibe of the discourse. No one cares about any of this, for one, but also, as I mentioned previously, racism as defined doesn't exist. Is also why anti-discrimination laws don't work, because people don't discriminate based on arbitrary characteristics. They discriminate based on behavior, and some behaviors are more prevalent among certain demographics, and everyone knows this. When you carry on as if you don't think people can see this, you come off as disingenuous, a smear merchant, or thick. In Piers' case, probably all of the above. For example, when it came to race and crime, Nick just points what everyone watching this video already knows and has known for decades. Even pointing out that black people, once they get money, they pick up and move somewhere else, which again is true.
What's the first thing we did when we got some money? I moved in a white neighborhood. Yeah, I'm living beside Becky.
Case in point. And Piers, being the obsequious little liberal bitch that he is, kept pivoting to white crime, even trying to relate that violence to school shootings. Nick was even amusingly chastising him for not understanding proportion, because comparing that crime to school shootings is really, really dumb. Refusing to say the numbers, laughing at him, stating, "Everyone knows what you're doing." Because it's true, it was irritatingly obvious. It's a move so on the nose obvious, you're actually insulted by the attempt at all. When you openly tell the audience from the start all you're going to do here is play their own words back at them and have them explain what they mean, at which point you ignore the explanations of said guest and refuse to engage with it, as you repeatedly double down on the gotcha attempts and labeling, there might be a reason why everyone hates you and thinks you're full of shit. It was obviously going to be an ambush. It's no surprise Clarkson punched you. The Jewish portion was admittedly hilarious. Aside from Nick's utter disregard for the post-World War II never again consensus, which is in and of itself really chuckleworthy, watching Piers desperately trying to virtue signal through pearl clutching, especially after the too soon line. You can probably guess what that's a reference to. But when Fuentes points out that certain people exploit world events for their own gain, which is obviously true, hello, what world do you live in? Piers claims he doesn't know anyone that does that. Less than 2 minutes later, he plays a clip of some old codger trying to lecture Nick about his jokes because a man's family ties with the former half of the last century, whilst he slyly plugs his book. Which just proves Fuentes' bloody point. This same guy goes on Twitter, posts a Nick video saying he's very rattled, which is pure cope. Nick ratios the holy hell out of him, with someone on the post writing, "At least send him a copy of the book for free, Danny," to which he shamelessly replies, "Nah, he can buy a copy." Needless to say, the noticing in the replies was overwhelming. Again, the complete lack of any shame is just astonishing. And once more, when Fuentes lays out the reality of the consequences of the never-ending perspective on his generation, Piers just dismisses him, saying it's a crock of shit. Well done, Piers, that is quite the intellectual rebuttal. This is why the boomer truth regime is collapsing in real time, because it's full of outdated, arrogant idiots like you. Nick's position was simply this: we're sick of these narratives. We've been browbeaten by them our entire lives and made to feel ashamed of our heritage. You're old and soon to be outdated. The next generation doesn't care about any of these so-called atrocities. We will not be shackled by them. Now get fucked.
The Anglo has had enough.
Oh, and speaking of, Piers had one more faceplant to go as he chose to attack Fuentes on his lack of experience with women, and my word, that was a colossal fuck up on so many levels. First off, being a 60-year-old man talking about getting laid is really, really creepy. Talking about getting laid to someone who's less than half your age when you look like Piers Morgan is downright disgusting. Even went so far as to call him a virgin. Doing that at 60 years old is beyond pathetic, especially because he's a Catholic, and you claim to be one as well, Piers, and yet here you are trying to call him a loser. How very Christian of you. But suggesting Nick's views about women stem from his lack of sexual experience with the opposite sex makes no sense when it comes to politics. Didn't realize I needed to shag them to understand their nonsensical positions when it comes to their absurd support for the rainbow hippies. What's the implication of this? That somehow through fornication he will stop noticing the stupid shit women say and do? Why? Do the men that have sex with women more often have a vastly more accurate perception of their politics versus the ones that don't? Do you need to have sex with women to understand their politics at all? No one's ever asked this question because the implication you need to is retarded. Not that any of this stopped Piers from mindlessly doubling down, he's only failed at every attempt to brand Nick with his boomer thinks they're bad labels. What's one more rake in the face? Heaven's sakes, anyone who's actually spent time listening to women knows if Nick were to actually do that, his feelings would not diminish, they'd amplify. I've said multiple times in this very channel the consequences of listening to women is misogyny. Hell, I got female friends that openly say they can only spend a set amount of time with other women before the experience becomes draining. How do you think blokes feel about it then? But where this all really blew up in Piers' face was post the interview. You see, Piers, being a sheltered, pretentious metropolitan wanker, is completely ignorant not only of Nick's fanbase, but also just how the internet works in general, and what the internet will find, especially if you're full of shit. Ye be careful lest ye piss off the autists. And I get the impression he thought he won because he had that typical smug look on his face the whole time. Well, mind you, that is just his face. I would have loved to see the look on it when he pitifully scrolls trying to find an approving comment to nurse that massive fragile ego. If he did that on YouTube, it might have been a while because there's over 70,000 comments there. We could talk about a needle in a haystack. But he did what every loser does when they get owned. Go on X to convince themselves they didn't lose, otherwise known as cope and seed. Throwing out post after coping post, getting ratioed left, right, and center in the process. I don't think he had any idea just how bad it actually went. Apparently he was still posting on X till the wee hours of the morning. At 60 years of age, that's a new level of sad. Hell, he was posting stuff like this. I'm not even gonna read that, it's so cringe and gay. This is the kind of stuff that gets you endless rounds of mockery because you sound weak and pathetic. But again, why on earth would you talk about sex when you look like that, Piers? Because it turns out Piers' wife, when they first met, she laughed at his expense as he was bombing giving a speech. After several drinks admitted to her that she ticks all of his boxes, but she said he ticks none of hers. That's all he's surprised, look at him. At which point, he proceeded to try and buy her to wear her down. Oh, clearly a marriage of affection and not one of status and materialism. Not exactly sure what status you're cultivating there. Hi, I'm married to one of the most obnoxious men in all of Britain. Or maybe it's a low-key stroke of genius, knowing that he is so obnoxious that she could just do anything that made him look bad and people would probably cheer for it. Her Instagram is a collage of Piers Morgan humiliation, with her appearing with numerous men in positions that would be highly inappropriate for a married woman, as well as admitting she was a subscriber to Ashley Madison, the website specifically made for people seeking an affair. Now, she claimed to us to conduct research into the company's finder. Well, look at your Instagram page, love. No one is buying that. It's actually hilarious because I remember some time ago, Fuentes saying there's an alliance between the Chads and the incels. They get it. The worst ones, though, are the beta male orbiters in the middle. And Piers is the one trying to bully him. Meanwhile, his first marriage ended in divorce. And he's on his second wife getting cocked. This might explain why Piers simps so relentlessly for women's equality, because he's an emasculated male feminist with no fucking balls. Celibate young Catholic versus emasculated old liberal cock. Oh, what an own that is. I'm not even a fan of Fuentes, but watching you fail repeatedly as he mocks your coping ass has been one of the funniest things of 2025.
See, this attitude is why you're losing. When you say
Who am I losing to?
white people,
Who
these
am I
poor
losing
old
to?
white people.
Who am I losing to?
You're seeing it. Mass migration. Oh, you're losing to me.
Cheers for watching, and once again, take it away, Nick.
I apologize for nothing.